that like Crisco is so short. Like I can't see like half of his
because I'm
face.
slouching. There we go.
Okay.
How's that?
I'm just like, is your normal setup that like your like face is just like covered like this?
There we go. No, it's because I was in my slouchy. It's a bit on the on our Twitch stream that I get slouchier as it goes along, and I forgot to reset.
Yeah,
I mean, this goes to show I should have been watching your Twitch streams.
My tit streams?
Twitch streams.
There we go. And without further ado, we're going to hand it over to the Lateral Bot for the theme song. You ready to go?
Beep boop. Rebooting the Lateral Show, a sideways look at fantasy football.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Lateral Show. Fasten your seatbelts, because here we go.
Yeets and greets, it's the Lateral Show with your hosts, Herms and McLateral. Beep boop.
What is up, everybody? It is the 100th episode of the Lateral Show, a sideways look at fantasy football. My name is Herms, on Twitter at HermsNFL, joined as always by McLateral. What is up, my dude?
No, not a whole lot. 100 episodes. It's pretty tough to believe that it's here, but it is true. Yeah, it's just kind of, a stunning moment to say the least.
Yeah, it's bizarre to think that we've done that this many times. And also, I remember whenever I would go into Anchor to like upload the podcast version, they had a Spotify Wrapped for us. And they showed us like how many minutes of material that we recorded over that last year.
God.
And I was just like, oh, Jesus Christ, that's way too much. Like, it kind of freaked me out. But it was still just one of those things, man. Like, proud to cross that milestone into 100. And we figured to, kind of celebrate, we should have on some guests from the history of the Lateral Show that really help, solidify the external identity of the show. And we figured Mr. Jeff Crisco of Football Absurdity,
Hello,
editor pal.
Hello, welcome. Hey, thanks for having me back, guys. I almost said welcome back. I'm so used to hosting. Welcome back to your own stream, you two. No, I'm very happy to be here. Two guys that I look up to for good dudes, good insight. Always have fun talking to you guys. So thanks for having me on this one.
Oh, we've got some feedback there.
Oh no!
Oh, we have so much feedback. Why is there this much feedback?
It's incredible.
Oh, okay. I figured it out.
All right.
So I clicked on the YouTube link because we're on YouTube for like the first time in a while because I wanted to just see like what the setup was looking like.
Okay.
And so while I have the audio for the StreamYard, also I'm on like basically a computer I haven't used for like any of our stuff. Like, this computer's basically been for one episode.
Hey.
Got that sweet Cyber Monday deal. But yeah, so I opened up YouTube, and so the audio for us right now on this stream is going through these monitors, but my computer audio apparently is still going through my Bluetooth speakers. And so when I went to YouTube, it started playing. And then it started playing on the Twitter stream of the YouTube stream. And while I muted the YouTube stream, I did not mute the Twitter stream of the YouTube stream. So in short, I literally write about technology all day, and even I think this is stupid.
And
I have listened to a lot of podcasts. I've heard a lot of autoplays interrupt the podcast. I've never heard the podcast autoplay interrupt the podcast before.
Well,
hey, we've done 100 of these. We are professionals. It is not a bug. It is a feature.
That's right.
There you go. And, and speaking of, this being on YouTube for, the first time in a while, we wanted to put this out so that way people could drop some comments if they wanted to, because you can't really do that through Twitter anymore. So thanks, Elon Musk, or whoever's
The
responsible
worst
for
thing
that.
he's ever done.
But exactly, so we got Toronto Dave up in the building,
Hey,
vibing
there
hard,
we go.
big dub for the one hundo, also big dub, Jeff Crisco. We got a new nickname for him, everything. So yeah,
What's up, Dave? Hey,
the
and
mad
Matt's here, too.
jester, the fucking dude,
The
my
dude.
guy, my dude. Yeah. So if you want to say something, cool. If not, that's up to you. But just right up top before we get into anything else, because we have a whole fun show ahead of you. We still actually have another guest that's going to come on eventually. We're doing some free agency predictions for some key players. We're also going to give out the Lateral Awards again, something that we enjoy doing for fun. But this is the last episode of the show, of the podcast. It is it's come to an end. So surprise, blah, but it's served its purpose. The purpose of the Lateral was to help give Malcolm and I an opportunity to have a platform and grow into the careers that we're in now. And it's just that this is it. So if you've ever listened to the show at any point in the past, we appreciate you for being part of the listenership and supporting us along the way. But, that's all I'm going to say for my soapbox. But, there are a few other things I'm sure that we have to talk about. So I'll hand it over to you, McLateral, because you were the more well-spoken of the two of us.
Well, luckily there's a beginning, a middle, and end to these things. So I'm sure at the end we will have some time to say some other fond words. This was actually supposed to happen last 2 weeks ago at this point, basically. Yeah. And so I was going on my honeymoon, as some of you were aware who had listened to the podcast, watched the streams. So basically the day we were going to record this, KLM sent me an email saying, hey, that flight to your honeymoon, well, so that's canceled now. Sorry. And I'm just like, cool. It's only like 10 o'clock the day before. So I got on the phone with KLM and they're like, what we can do is we can put you on a flight at 5 p.m. today. And so I hit up Herms. I'm like, hey, so the show's not happening. I hit up my boss. I'm like, hey, remember how it's supposed to work today? That's also not happening. I have to pack. So eventually, got there, had a great time, got home, had less of a great time doing that, as some of you saw on my Twitter account at MacMcMillanATL, which is my official Twitter account as of today. The McLateral account will be going away permanently because this is going to be my last hurrah as a fantasy analyst. This is it. I work full-time as a writer now. I'm doing the whole tech writing thing. I wrote 4 tech articles today. I don't really have it in me to then write a fantasy article when I get home. It's just, my creative juices are flowing with something else. And as much as I love fantasy football, it's time to hang it up in terms of the professional aspect of it. So it has been a wild ride. I'm very thankful for it. But this is it. So
there it is, folks. The intrepid
meets and greets, people. How do you like them apples?
Yeah, and I just do want to put this out there because I don't want it to seem like we're not thinking about the big situation that happened on Monday night. But obviously, it's good to hear that Damar Hamlin is doing a lot better. It's great that he is in better health because watching that moment on television was absolutely terrifying and definitely one of the most horrifying things I think I ever watched on television at all. So
it's definitely up there. I think the worst one for me, I didn't see this one live. I saw it I think on a clip after the fact, was Christian Eriksen for Denmark, basically dying on the field. And you can see the moment where he jolts because his heart restarted. And that was wild. And this just had me flashbacks of that. I think it is good that we brought it up, but I didn't want to bring it up almost because A, figured you would handle it, but B, I don't think we really have anything to add other than it was awful and we're glad he's doing great. Well, okay, better. however you want to phrase it, like the guy is alive and it looks like he's going to stay alive, knock on wood. Like,
Yeah. I mean, he woke up today and asked, did we win? Apparently. That's what I heard. So,
yes, asked it via writing because he still
yeah,
can't speak
he's
'cause
still
got a tube,
intubated.
but yes.
But no, he didn't like open his eyes and
Yeah.
say, did we win? But
Yeah.
I mean, headed in the right direction. That's
Yeah, I mean, without being a doctor, my gut reaction is like he basically like died for a while. So I think because his body went through all that trauma, it's just going to take him a while to bounce back. But fingers crossed.
And as such, like you said, we don't really have anything else to say that people haven't already said. I feel
Including
like
that Skip Bayless is a fucking asshole.
well, we already knew
That
that. We've never been a fan of him here on this show. I think we've only ever brought it up a handful of times, but yeah, fuck that guy. And then just like, fuck the whole situation. It obviously really sucks, but like, I feel like by this point, fantasy commissioners have dealt with, the whole title and prize money assignment thing. And we're not going to be able to give any greater insight than, other people within the industry already have. But, again, just wanted to acknowledge it so that way it didn't seem like we were just like, well, hey, are they just not going to say it? Because, I mean, like, of course it's awful. But, again, what else were we going to say? So,
real quick. One
you
last
go
thing
first.
about DeMar Hamlin.
Yes.
Special shout out to everybody in the NFL world, all the fans, everything. This Chasing M's Foundation just pulled it
Oh
up.
yeah.
$2,500 goal for this thing, by the way. $7.6 million in that bad boy. That's DeMar Hamlin's foundation. That's like the way that everybody has rallied around this is incredible. And I think one thing we have to remember going forward is every NFL player is a split second away from being the next DeMar Hamlin. There's a freak accident, but this could have been literally anybody. And I think when some of us talk about players, need to realize how scared we are for DeMar Hamlin right now, and that this could be Tom Brady. This could be, one of any players. It was a freak accident, and it was a matter of milliseconds and millimeters. But the way everybody's rallied around has been really awesome.
Yeah. And then the only other thing I was going to mention is I've done two things on Twitter. I've muted Skip Bayless and I've muted Elon Musk, and I highly recommend both. It makes your timeline so much more enjoyable. So some free advice.
Definitely 10 out of 10 recommend doing that for sure. And I've also just received word that our other guest is on the way, so we don't have much more stalling time that we have to fill. So that's pretty good. But
Does Jeff want to get on his soapbox?
I have a soapbox.
There we go.
Let me climb up onto my soapbox here. This is a soapbox dedicated to the two of you. I knew this was going to be your last episode. My soapbox is about chasing your dream. As Herm set up at the top, this was to give you both a platform. Herms? Oh, wrong way. Herms, you're with Draft Sharks. McLateral, you got your full-time gig writing for tech stuff. Chase your dreams. Like, these two did it right here, and they were able to pull it off. And I want to encourage everybody out there to do it. I recently have somewhat abandoned it, and you know what? That's okay too. Have relative understanding of what's going on and chase your dreams. Worst case scenario, like I said, when I quit my estimating job before, I can always go back to estimating in a few years, and that's what I did. These two pulled it off. I'm so proud of both of you. I'm so happy for both of you. Big dubs for both of you guys. So my soapbox is chase your dream. Worst case scenario, you're back where you started.
Yeah, I mean, I know I was literally about to take a job as a financial advisor. Like, I'd quit my job. I'd been writing for a couple years. It's like, I'm going to quit my job because I'm moving and I'm going to force myself to get a job writing. And I tried. It was months. And I couldn't get it. And eventually it's like, I need to get a job. So I had applied to some other stuff, and there was this one financial advisor job that I had been offered. And I was like, can you guys give me till the end of the month? And then it's like a week before the month ended, I got the job offer with Tom's Guide, and it's best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah. So my soapbox is dedicated to you two, to the hosts of the show.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And I will reflect on my journey once we get toward the end a little bit, because I'm sure also we're allowed to do whatever the hell we want because it's our last show. I mean,
I was told I
literally.
could.
Does not matter.
I was told I could do this.
It's
Fuck.
This
All
is
right,
this is free content. No one is paying us. No one did yeah, this is just for fun. This is just to send it off with a bang.
This is for funsies.
Absolutely. And one more thing back on my soapbox, just because I get double soapbox from a co-host.
Wait, hold on. How many soapboxes do we have here? Do I need to get
Enough
off of this
until
one?
Nate finally gets on here,
Until Nate
and
shows
we
up.
can move on with the show. That's basically it.
Yeah, because we have this whole thing planned. Like we're gonna run through the free agent players and give the awards, but it's just
It's almost as if we had planned this whole thing. It's almost as if there was a start time and we knew we were gonna go live, and it's now 10:20. We were going live at 10.
Yeah.
No, we went live by 10:02. We were pretty close.
Yeah.
And he told me it was going to be a little late, but I didn't think it was going to mean this late. But hey, there we go. All right, there it is. Okay,
Vamping over.
What up, guys?
Howdy.
welcome into the show, our good friend, probably the first friend, really close friend I made in the fantasy community. Over there at In Between Media, he's doing a bunch of other stuff over there, hanging out with the Player Profiler crew, so many other places. His name is Nate Paulvote, and his house is a very comfortable house to sleep in.
Hello. You have stayed in the room next to where I am right now.
That is true. That is true. I gotta say, really enjoyed that mattress, and those pillows are very soft.
Quick question. So it sounds like is there any sort of discount with promo code Herms to stay at Nate's house, or?
Dude, if you come out here, it's free. I might be on your way soon. We have family that lives in Napa. So if we're out there, I'm coming to see you.
Yes.
I'm coming to see you, Jeff.
That'd be awesome.
Oh, guys, it's great to be here.
Yes, it is. And by the way, so we already ripped off the Band-Aid. We told the audience this is the finale. We invited the people onto the show that we wanted to, really, well, I mean, ideally it would have been cool to include more people, but a screen full of 4 faces is about the best you can really do before it becomes cacophony. And it felt like anything bad to do over that. So Nate,
what we didn't mention is it's also Nate's last ever appearance as a fantasy analyst on anything. Wow, what a coincidence.
Crazy, wild, insane.
I'm putting Nate on the retired list all on my own.
I mean,
big news, especially to Nate.
Yeah,
Nate's
the first time I'm hearing this, it's like hearing that you've been cut on social media. I'm bummed, man, because I had the perfect plan. I have this Good Riddance shirt, the punk band Good Riddance. Herms, you're familiar. Malcolm, you're familiar. Jeff, you're probably familiar. I was going to put my Good Riddance shirt here in honor of this being your last show. And I dropped the ball. Dave, my dude, what is up?
There it is. Toronto Dave saying hello to the whole crew now. We got that rolling. Dude, wonderful for you to be able to join us on this fabulous occasion. And now that we have all 4 of us here and we've gone through the soapbox and the vamping and the stalling, we get into the first part of the show. But I said I was going to carry the second half of the show. So, McLateral, if you would like to introduce the first thing we're doing.
All right, here we go. It's free agent carousel. We are going to see where you think these free agents are landing. So we took the top three free agents, in our opinion, at each of the fantasy relevant positions, being quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, not doing kickers, and obviously a whole entire defense can't be a free agent. So we're skipping that one as well. But so, of course, we'll start with quarterbacks. And I'm just going to go around to each of you, just go around the horn like so. And I'm going to ask you where you think this player is going to end up to start 2023. Herms, starting with you. Lamar Jackson, where do you think he's going?
Well, at first, I'm going to go ahead and just do an absolutely shameless plug and point out to people that if you go to draftsharks.com and you look at the 2023 free agency previews columns, I wrote all of them for each of the 4 major position groups. So if you want to get a good idea as to what we deem their dynasty value to be and kind of where they're at, definitely go to draftsharks.com. So I feel very prepared to do this. And I will say that Lamar Jackson, based off of everything that I've been kind of getting the vibe that So that quote from John Harbaugh basically just being like, I don't care. We're going to talk about the players that are here and the whatever. It seems like there's kind of just like a cold shoulder on both ends of this equation. It wouldn't shock me if Lamar gets franchise tag just because of how good of a player he is. But like, I think about the teams that are like legitimately like a QB away from being able to do something really interesting that already have an infrastructure in place. And I think while the chances of this aren't particularly high, I'm just going to swing for the fences and say Detroit, because you can get out of Jared Goff's contract, and Ben Johnson has built a very run-heavy offense anyway. And like a lot of the really good targets they have in the passing attack are people that you can use in like the short and intermediate, so you don't have to just – because like Lamar is not exactly like the big chuck it, 50 yards downfield type of guy. It's not like they're running vertical schemes that often anyway. So I think that would just be fun, and I think they have the money to do it. So just for funsies, and I think the fact that I think it would be a pretty good fit. If he doesn't stay with the Ravens, I'm going with the Lions, because why not?
Okay, I like it. Also, you got the assignment there. So Nate and Crisco, just FYI, the goal here is just say where they're gonna be going in your mind for week 1, 2023. It's not about fantasy implications, anything like that. It doesn't have to be a whole thesis. It's just like where you think they're going and why. So
all my notes are worthless.
Exactly. I want short blurbs, 150 words or less.
I can give you way less than 150 words. He's staying in Baltimore. Whether they have to franchise tag him or they extend him, it really doesn't matter. There's no way that franchise can let this guy go. Can you imagine the riots in the city of Baltimore if they let Lamar Jackson go in free agency? It will be a madhouse. However, if he does leave, this is going to sound crazy, but I think he stays in the area. I think Washington's looking for a quarterback, and I think they're willing to spend money on a quarterback, and he fits what they want to do. They don't want to throw the ball a ton, but when they do throw the ball, they've got the kind of targets that Lamar Jackson would thrive with Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, Jahan Dotson. It's a good situation for him. Would he move? Should he move?
Yeah, I like that take a lot. I agree with you, by the way. I think he's staying in Baltimore because not reuniting would mean that like something's gone horribly wrong.
Right.
And it would signal a rebuild for a team that's literally not designed to rebuild right now.
Well, and in that scenario, John Harbaugh's gone.
Yeah, exactly. Like they would have to literally basically start over. So Crisco, going to you here. Are you on Team Balmer as well, or do you have something fun like Herms and Pole Vault have thrown out here? With some alternate destinations. Well, Nate, I'm going to call you Nate from now on. I don't know why I keep going to Paul.
You can call me Paul Vote. I've just never had anybody consistently call me by my last name without eventually morphing it into Polygoat, which I really would like to avoid on this show.
All right,
I know, Jeff.
Polygoat
I know.
The rest of the show.
All right,
There's
Polygoat.
no way around it.
I did not love it in high school. It was not fun.
Oh yeah, I have as a normal last name haver, I can fully understand that. My heart tells me he's gonna get tagged, but I do have a fun answer. There is a team that is 8-8 right now in the hunt of the playoffs, and they are a quarterback away from being back to glory because they just traded their starting quarterback, and their current quarterback will be a free agent after this year. They have $48.5 million in cap space next year without restructuring anything. And they are a run-first team with a strong defense. Well, in theory, a strong defense. That pick they got from the Broncos for Russell Wilson will sure make that defense stronger.
I like it.
Seattle Seahawks, Lamar Jackson. They're already set up to run. They know how to play with the running quarterback. The only problem is Lamar's going to have to chuck it downfield because they are a vertical passing attack. But they've got the space. They've got everything they need. They just need. I'll hate it as a Niners fan, but that Lamar Jackson to Seattle, it hurts, but I think it might happen.
I like that a lot. Herms, you go real quick, and then we'll get back on the road.
From the audience, we have a suggestion from the Mad Jester himself. Lamar in Miami would be nasty.
So I actually thought you were going to say this, Herms. That was what I was thinking in my head. It's like, because you could send Tua to Balmer, and Balmer would probably go with it. And then you got Lamar in Miami, makes a lot of sense for that offense. I don't disagree. I think ultimately Mike McDaniel isn't quite ready to give up on Tua, and so I don't think that team gives up on Tua unless they give up on Mike McDaniel. Yeah. But I like the thinking, and again, it is where I actually thought Herms was going to go. But Crisco, speaking of the Niners, Jimmy Garoppolo, Jimmy Jesus, it looks like this year he's finally going to leave.
Finally.
Brock Purdy apparently is the second coming of Tom Brady. So even if Trey Lance doesn't pan out, we're good. And if you combine the draft pick of Trey Lance and the draft pick of Brock Purdy, we basically spent 2/3 on these guys, which is totally fine.
Yeah.
So where do you think Jimmy Garoppolo is going? Personally, I've got him going to the Jets. He knows Robert Saleh. The team needs a QB. They instantly become a playoff team with Garoppolo. But does it make too much sense?
It does make a lot. It makes too much sense. And I'm going to go with the chaos answer here. So we have a joke on our podcast that whoever the 18th best quarterback is in the league, that's who the Colts are going out to get.
Yep.
And Jimmy Garoppolo is the 18th best quarterback in the league. They did it. They've done it for 3 straight years now. They're going to do it again. It's going to be handsome James Garoppolo, Indianapolis Colts. That's it. That makes too much sense from how we look at it, that the Colts love to get a below average quarterback and then go, why is quarterback such a problem? And that's the perfect Jimmy Garoppolo.
Here's the problem with that, Jeff. I think the Colts are going to throw a truck, like a semi-truck worth of money at Jim Harbaugh. And I think they're going to give him a decent amount of control of that team. I think Irsay is going to say, here's the keys. You're a former Colt. You were very successful as a Colt. Come home. Turn this team around. You've got Michael Pittman. You've got Jonathan Taylor. You've got a line that when it's healthy is one of the best in the league. You've got a good defense when they're healthy. Again, you just need that quarterback. And Jim Harbaugh can get a quarterback. Jim Harbaugh can coach a quarterback. He's taken some mediocre quarterbacks at Michigan and made a run at a national championship.
I like that. I like that a lot. I actually thought that Harbaugh to Indy was basically going to be a done deal. I told Terms as much actually over the weekend, but I'm hearing reports now that he is leaning towards staying. We'll see what happens. Anything is possible. There's tons of time.
See, and I've heard
set
that
in stone.
And I've heard that too. I just think Indy is seriously going to
they're going to try. They will absolutely try.
And for him, if you think about it, that was the most successful Jim Harbaugh ever was in his career. Were those few years in Indy when he took them to the playoffs when they weren't really
he went to a Super Bowl coaching the Niners, but
no, what I'm talking about is a player.
As a player.
As a player, as a quarterback.
No,
as a coach, obviously.
Super Bowl coach.
Obviously. But as far as a player goes, the most successful he ever was in his career was in Indy. So it wouldn't if you're a guy
going there makes a lot of sense.
What's the next achievement? It's a Super Bowl. He's gotten there, he hasn't won he can win a Super Bowl in Indy and be he's already kind of a hero there anyway.
Where do you think Jimothy Garoppolo ends up then?
Oh boy, that's tough. Depending on what happens with coaching, I could see him in Carolina.
Interesting.
I mean,
interesting.
You're not asking the quarterback in Carolina is going to be asked to do much. They've gotten by on that with Sam Darnold these last few weeks. He's a more competent, more reliable, more efficient Sam Darnold.
I like the take. I think Tepper is kind of sick of this shit and is going to draft someone. But
I
like
hope
the
so.
take. I hope
so.
Honestly, I get that. There was actually later on in this, when we get to some other positions, there was a guy I was thinking of for Carolina. And I'm just like, you know what? Tepper doesn't want to deal with this shit. He's going to just draft. He's just going to draft. He's going to draft. He's going to draft. He's not bringing in free agents. He is tired of overpaying people to do shitty jobs. And I think Jimmy Garoppolo, pretty good, all things considered, would probably do fine. But I don't think Tepper wants to take a risk on it. But I do love the take. Herms, where you got James T. Garoppolo going?
So my landing spot for him, I wanted to put the qualifier out there. This is not the number one potential pairing for this franchise because there is somebody who I think could potentially be available that would slot right in and be much better for what they want to do. But if this franchise strikes out in other avenues, and also very important to add, they don't have the necessary first round capital to really take one of these 4 quarterbacks people are kind of talking about going in the first round. So they're going to have to pivot and do something different. And that team is the Atlanta Falcons. It's important, it's clear at this point that when you give Drake London a bunch of work, and when you give Kyle Pitts a bunch of work, like they do pretty well, but you have to have a quarterback that can get them the ball. And I think at a certain point, Arthur Smith is going to have to realize, for the sake of his own job security, it's important that they get a quarterback that can get these guys involved. You don't spend 2 picks, especially like top, 10 picks on pass catchers, and then just like let them go to waste. So, like I think the real answer for the Falcons, I think, if they eventually end up kind of settling on this, maybe Ryan Tannehill, reunite them a little bit.
Literally going to just say, I think they're going to go for Tannehill.
Yeah. But since he's not an unrestricted free agent, he doesn't qualify for this discussion. So that's why, if they strike out, the next logical thing to do would be to take a quality veteran retread look at Jimmy Garoppolo, because he's good. He's pretty good.
Well, the Falcons definitely have some cap room. They are going to come up later in this discussion for sure. But someone who is a quarterback and a free agent and has some familiarity with the Atlanta Falcons is Tom Brady, who, yes, is a free agent, an unrestricted free agent. Where do you think he is going to go? Nate, I'm going to start with you to shake things up here.
Talked about this earlier on my player profiler show with Jack Kavanaugh, who, if you are not familiar with Jack Kavanaugh is the man, one of my favorite people in this industry, one of the best mustaches in the industry.
That is also true.
He's Canadian, so he's chilling nice. Tom Brady is going to Las Vegas. And let me tell you why he's going to Las Vegas.
Shout out Toronto Dave.
That is
Timothy Midopolo. Anyway, sorry.
You know what's awesome about this? I have given all 3 of you a hug in person. And now here we are talking on a stream.
True.
I had a drink with every single one of you.
More than one.
Perfect. Way more than one. Way more than one. Okay, so Josh McDaniels is the head coach.
Mm-hmm.
Derek Carr got benched for Jarrett Stidham. Derek Carr's gone. We all know that. Devontae Adams, Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller, Josh Jacobs, Brandon Bolden, who Tom Brady is familiar with, helped him win a Super Bowl. He's a free agent. He doesn't want to quit. He doesn't want to retire. He wants to keep playing. Go play with his buddy Josh. He was successful in New England for almost 2 decades with Josh McDaniels. It hasn't worked out this season in Tampa Bay. He is not satisfied with this below 500 record, even though they're making the playoffs. Tampa just goes into full rebuild mode. The Bears trade for Chris Godwin to give Justin Fields that alpha because they saw what A.J. Brown did for Jalen Hurts. Now, I want to be very clear. This is a conversation on New Year's Day that Jen and I had laying in bed at about 10:30 in the morning. Don't know why it came up.
Yeah, that's interesting pillow talk.
Right. Well, this is what we talk about.
Do you think 4-3 or 3-4 is the better defense?
Honey, I was just thinking about the prevalence of cover 2. Have you?
Do you know the saying that the prevent defense, all it does is prevent you from winning?
Dude, this is what it's like when you're both in the industry. It's constant football talk. But now, do I think that they're actually going to trade Chris Godwin? They might. If Tom Brady leaves, like, what's the point of holding on to a 3-year, $60 million contract in Godwin? You move it because you're clearly in rebuild mode. Like, Blaine Gabbert's your quarterback of record here. Godwin's the most expensive piece you can move. Let go of Leonard Fournette. You've got Rachaad White that you can build on. You've got Russell Gage, who's younger. You can build on. He's a cheaper receiver. You probably let go of Mike Evans too, but he's less of a relevant move as far as anything goes. I'm crazy.
No, honestly, I do think Tampa is going to blow it up. I do think Tom Brady ends up leaving. I think the Las Vegas thing is interesting. My only concern is it's potentially a little bit of drama because you mentioned Josh Jacobs. Some people would say Josh Jacobs is not coming back. You mentioned Josh McDaniels. Yeah, they played well together, but are they really that close? I've heard they like say hi a couple times a year. And then you talk about Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams came to Las Vegas to play with his buddy Derek Carr. I don't know that we're going to have a happy Devontae Adams this offseason. Now, that contract is massive. He might just have to shut up and play when push comes to shove, but that will be interesting. I don't know that Brady necessarily wants to deal with it, but I think it is for sure a front runner. I think you are on the right track. I'm just playing a little devil's advocate, poking some holes in things. Crisco, where you got Tom Brady going? The future Hall of Famer.
I actually had him going to Las Vegas as well.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, that's 2 for 2. That's easy enough. Do you have anything that you didn't touch on?
Yes, and actually I was listening to, I believe it was the Around the NFL podcast on my way home from work today, and they had a clip of Devontae Adams basically saying, hey, I came here to play with Derek Carr, and I came here to win. And you're taking Derek Carr away from me, so we better win, is basically what it came down to. And the Raiders went out and tried to get Tom Brady before. That famous you're sticking with that motherfucker quote was about Derek Carr. They've been circling each other for years. I mean, Tom Brady to Las Vegas, and guess who's been thinking about maybe I'll play next year? Gronk comes out of retirement. Let's go.
Dude,
Gronk, Darren Waller, 2 tight end sets with Devontae Adams.
Well,
Tag Josh Jacobs. Let's roll.
is there a better city for Gronkowski to live? Like Gronk in Vegas.
Tampa's probably pretty good, if I'm being honest.
yeah.
He didn't come back this year.
Tampa's pretty good, but Vegas.
Yeah,
Vegas,
it's definitely intriguing. Herms, are you making it 3 for 3 with Las Vegas?
Yeah.
Let's go.
Like, dude, again, like, I'm not bringing anything new to the table for this tag of commentary, but just to reiterate, like, Devontae Adams, dude, like, I don't know, like, it's a franchise that is, like, pretty cash strapped. Like, one of the reasons that was floating out there as to why they couldn't move on from Josh McDaniels, even if they wanted to, is because of that whole, like, weird situation going on there. So, like, they're backed into a corner and they really only have one way out of it. So, like, they do possess the draft capital within, like, the latest round of, you know, the draft order reshuffling, to the point where they could be in play potentially for, you know, like, if what draft people are saying early about Will Levis is true, then he probably wouldn't be around by that time. But, like, it could potentially put them in Anthony Richardson contention or something. But when you have a choice between a project that's going to take a few years and Tom fucking Brady, you're going to take Tom fucking Brady, even if it's the old version of him that really has not been particularly, like, by comparison anyway. Like, it's not like he's been horrible. It's just that, you know, like, he sets such a high bar for himself that, you know, it's tough. But either way, like, it's the only logical thing they can really do. Otherwise, that whole kit and caboodle goes up in flames.
Well, Tom Brady was QB 11 this season.
I think it's going to go up in flames because you guys have talked about a reunion, and I don't disagree with you.
Oh, man.
Reunited, and it feels so good. He's going back to New England.
I can see that
happening because Bill O'Brien is going to get hired as the offensive coordinator. He's not playing for Matt Patricia, but he'll play for Bill O'Brien. And that team is going to be a Bill O'Brien offense. They're going to retool as needed. Kraft is sick of this shit. And they're going to go and get Tom Brady. I think Tom Brady has, like, had his time off. He's like, you know what? I left. I won a ring. I've seen what it's like. It's not that much better. Let's, like, go do this thing. Let's run it back. And I think that is exactly what he's going to do. The other possibilities I thought of, oddly enough, Vegas kind of went from my mind real quick because I think it's too much drama. I don't think he wants to deal with it. You know, he's always wanted to return to the Bay Area, but I think that ship has sailed as well. But the two other intriguing ones, the dark horses, the Jets would make a lot of sense, but I don't think he'll play for the Jets. I just don't think he can do it. Partially because I think he's still got a little bit of New England in his heart, which is why he might go back. And then I think he would go to New Orleans to play for Sean Payton, but New Orleans has serious cap issues, and at some point that has to matter. Yeah. I get that it never has, but at some point it has to matter that they are in cap hell. and I just don't think it's going to happen. Though if they can make it work, he will be on a pretty talented roster, and Sean Payton would come back for that. So that is a dark horse for me, but I think he's going back to New England. I got this feeling.
I do have a chaos option.
Okay.
There is a team with a ton of cap space, with a free agent quarterback that they go, maybe we don't want to tag him. And maybe Tom Brady exercises his demons.
This has been floated, and I don't disagree.
New York Giants legend.
Absolutely.
Thomas Patrick Edward Brady.
I think it's got a real possibility.
Yeah.
That would be the most epic end to a career.
Especially because
possibly imagine
his kids spend some time in New York, I think, because of the first wife being there. So he's got familiarity with the city. I think he likes being there, is what I've heard. I think I do think it'll be New England in my heart, but if it doesn't end up being New England, I think the two New York teams become the front runners. So I love that take.
Saquon Barkley, he loves pass catching backs. He loves little guys. Wandale.
So
Slayton,
let's just get right into it here because the first running back on the list is Saquon Barkley. So, Crisco, you're feeling pretty confident he's staying with the Giants.
I think so. I think we're kind of in an era where these top flight running backs don't change teams too much. I mean, you got Christian McCaffrey got traded this year, but that was kind of a special case. You find your groove and you stick in it is basically what happens. I think that Saquon Barkley is going to stick around with the Giants. I think it'll be a mutual interest thing. They got plenty of cap space. They'll probably pay him more than anybody. And I think that Brian Daboll has a good plan for him. So yeah, I think Saquon's just staying put.
Love it. Nate, you think Barkley's staying in New York?
Oh, there's no way he's leaving. There's no way.
All right. Easy enough. Herms, to you, is it 3 for 3?
Let's move on to the next running back.
Okay.
Hey.
For what it's worth, I do think they franchise tag him. Then I think Daniel Jones gets a full contract. I think that's how they end up doing it, because I think Daboll wants to run it back with this particular setup. Though, again, the Brady wrinkle is interesting. Okay, someone that maybe needs some more discussion, Tony Pollard. Herms, where do you have Tony Pollard landing this offseason?
And my initial gut reaction is to just kind of take the same attitude I had for the Saquon thing and just say, moving on, because, but the Jones family, specifically Jerry, they love Ezekiel Elliott. It's possible for them to get out of Zeke's contract and so maybe they talk to him and just say, look, dude, it's time to admit what the fuck is up, and just we'll bring you back, but could you please just, maybe they'll restructure some money, figure it out somehow. The most ideal thing is for him to return there. But I think about a team that could use kind of it's important to note that even the Cowboys offensive coaching staff has pointed out, we don't really want to give this guy a shit ton of touches. We want him to be in some sort of split situation. And given his slight frame and the type of player that he is going to have to be somewhere where he's not workhorse level craziness, whatever. I think he profiles best as somebody what Austin Eckler did with Melvin Gordon during that era of the Chargers. And there are a handful of teams that could really use somebody like that, and I don't really have a definitively good answer because there are just a few teams that could do that. So I'm going to take the kind of shitty, cheap option and just say, oh, he's going back to the Cowboys. But I do want to reflect that is a possibility that could possibly, you know what I mean? My answer is probably the Cowboys.
Let's go Cowboys.
Yeah, but keep in mind,
stick to it.
He'll split a load. Probably.
Yeah. Nate, do you think Tony Pollard's taking a full load, or you?
I was going to say, are we just going to leave split a load out there?
Of course not, Jeff.
God
would
damn
we
it.
ever?
God.
Why there's two hosts, baby.
We do on our podcast often make sure we mention load management as something that's very important.
But Nate, in all seriousness, Tony Pollard, where does Pollard end up?
Oh, well, Pollard's going to continue to carry the load in Dallas. The only place I can see him maybe possibly going is Buffalo moving on from Devin Singletary and making a push for Pollard, bringing him in, combo him with James Cook. because you essentially have two of the same dynamic back that can do everything.
Okay.
Which for Buffalo, like, I can see Sean McDermott wanting to get crazy with that. It's a new dynamic to an
I
offense.
think my view on Buffalo's running backs is pretty well known, which is like they think they want one, but then it ultimately turns out that they don't, and they don't use them. So, yeah,
They tried for McCaffrey though. They really did.
They've tried for a lot of them, and it just doesn't ultimately like work out.
Yeah,
I do like the take though, Crisco. Let's see if I like your take as much. Tony Pollard, where do you think he ends up?
There's a team that has been striking out and losing out on players just like Tony Pollard. They had Chase Edmonds. He's gone. They had Benjamin. He turned out to be a huge prick. They thought this might be Darrell Williams. Not the case. They had Kenyon Drake. The Arizona Cardinals cannot depend on James Conner, and they know that. And they need a 1B They need a 1A like Tony Pollard. Make James Conner the 1B, the Jamal Williams in Detroit this year, to put it in a way that we know that just happened. Take him to Arizona. They have so many receivers, and they have like one running back, and they need Tony Pollard to keep James Conner healthy.
So are you saying that Cliff Kingsbury gets fired then?
Well, I think that's almost a separate issue, but yes.
Do I think he gets fired? Yes. As a fan of an NFC West team, Cliff, baby, stick around.
Right?
Stick around.
Stay.
So, okay.
Yeah.
What we've gotten at here is we don't think Tony Pollard is a bell cow workhorse back. And I don't disagree. And Crisco, I thought you were going to mention this team because you talked about them striking out with a running back. And you were like this close to mentioning the Kansas City Chiefs, who have cap space, who would like to have a running back not named CEH. And Tony Pollard can do everything Jerick McKinnon can do, but better. He just can't.
That's entirely fair. Yeah.
Still relatively young. If Tony Pollard wants to win a Super Bowl, like, congrats. You're on the right team if you're in Kansas City. Like, it just to me, it makes so much sense that it almost makes too much sense as a landing spot. The other thing is I think Dallas, I agree with you guys. It is like kind of the obvious choice if it weren't for the Ezekiel Elliott of it all. If Zeke was also a free agent, this would be easy. They would stick with Tony Pollard. They'd let Zeke go. But because he isn't, and Jerry Jones is loyal, I'm with Herms. Like, I think it's going to be tough to like figure out that balancing act. But for me, it's the Kansas City Chiefs. Unlike with go.
We have some input from the audience. So
Yes.
a few things, courtesy of the entirety of the Full Tilt Dynasty Podcast Network. First and foremost, number one, don't let Tony Pollard go to Buffalo. I think
Correct.
we're all okay with that.
Yes.
Also,
that's fine.
the Cardinals can draft one in the fourth and be fine with what they need on the team.
Also
I think that's a
probably
pretty
correct.
decent take. It's a good class for them to possibly go that way. But we do
Look,
have.
I'm just trying to be exciting. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to. Yeah.
Yeah.
I almost said the Browns. Would that have been better? Replace Kareem Hunt?
But then
I was told Kareem Hunt is not an important enough free agent to talk about on this show. He was in the Tony Pollard spot, and I was shot down. I want the record to show that.
but we also have their suggestion, specifically from Tom, by the way.
I thought everybody was sharing one keyboard. In that
That's how I view it in my head.
yeah.
Pollard to replace Josh Jacobs is their vote. So we got some input from the audience.
So I like that on paper. I don't think that's the type of running back that McDaniels will look to replace Jacobs with.
Could be fun.
I you know my vote, Herms. I think Damian Harris to Las Vegas is like a lock.
Yeah, and also just a freebie name that we're not going to mention on this list, but is a fellow free agent that, you know, his future is a little uncertain. I'll co-sign that one.
But speaking of the Raiders, Josh Jacobs, Crisco, where do you have Jacobs going?
I start again. Josh Jacobs is going to chase the bag. There is one team that will give him a whole lot of the bag because they love to run the football, and that is the Atlanta Falcons.
Correct.
Yo,
That is absolutely correct. That is exactly what I have. Plenty of cap space and needs that are worth addressing in the draft. Other than running back, he's a young free agent. It makes total sense. Nate, tell us why we're wrong.
Well, because he's going to Miami.
Heyo.
Ooh,
let's
okay.
go.
I like it.
Bama
What's
running
the
back. They all seem to roll through Miami. They don't have a settled running back situation. He's dynamic. I think he fits the offense well. I think I've been low on him because of Vegas's offense and their offensive style and Derek Carr. I don't know. I just feel it.
I like it. I like the take. I think that there's maybe something still left in the tank with Jeff Wilson. And so Mike McDaniel might want to hold on to that, but it's a good take. It's tough to poke holes in.
I mean, Josh Jacobs is probably a better tandem back than a bell cow. So putting him with Jeff Wilson, maybe not so bad for him.
No, or with Tyler Algier.
No, I like Tyler.
No, Jeff, great call, Crisco.
That's right.
Well, Herms, where do you have Jacobs going?
I didn't really have a great answer for this one, so I'm gonna go ahead and default to something from the comment section. Jacobs to the Chiefs, bro. Like,
I don't hate it. I think the Chiefs will pick up a free agent running back. I think my second choice is actually Kareem Hunt. I think enough time has passed that like he's already familiar with that offense. It hasn't really changed. But Jacobs would be an excellent pick. It does feel like a player Andy Reid would really like. He's played against the Chiefs plenty, so he's not completely unfamiliar with that team. I like the pull from the audience. We've talked about the Patriots a lot, and the wide receiver class is terrible. But there are a couple guys that stand out, including Jacoby Myers from the Patriots. Nate, where do you think Jacoby Myers ends up to start 2023?
The CFL, Bob.
Oh.
Ooh. I'm kidding.
Harsh.
Man, come on.
Nate's buying time.
He stays. You're right, Jeff. I am buying time. I hadn't thought about Jacoby Myers being a dude. So I said, did my player profiler show tonight, and usually it's like 45 minutes straight of start-sit questions. We're flooded with them. There's no more start-sit. So I was like, what are we going to talk about tonight? Oh, dynasty values and where people are going to land in free agency. Oh, shit. Buy myself time. Jacoby Myers, free agent. He stays in New England. Belichick's familiar with him. Like Belichick doesn't move on from guys like that. He's not a big money free agent. They're not going to have to spend a lot to keep him. He knows the offense. He knows the system. He knows the coaches. Unless Belichick moves and isn't the coach, Myers stays put.
I like the take. Herms, let's go to you. What are you thinking? You thinking he stays put as well?
Maybe, and I don't have a team specific take, but I do have a what ultimately happens to Jacoby Myers take, and that is, and you and I kind of talked about it like a little bit earlier. I see parallels between.
But when you tried to get me to trade him to you.
Look, hey, and I'm not wrong in my analysis. I'm not, but like I do think ultimately, like, and again, this is an imperfect comparison player to player because they're not exactly the same. Sure, but it wouldn't shock me if a team really in need of a receiver looks at this free agent class, says "fuck," and then. Notices, well, at least this guy has been really solid as a slot contributor. Maybe we can add that to our offense and just pay them whatever because this is the best we have and it's fine. Akin to what the Jaguars did with Christian Kirk this past offseason. It might be a team that we're just not expecting because, again, this class is crucially terrible. So my point,
bad wide receiver free agent class. I struggled to come up with the list of three people. Jacoby Myers was the only one I was locked in on.
I just think he's going to get a weirdly big contract than people are expecting if he moves on. And he'll be involved because they had to give him a weirdly big contract. Like, unless you're going to take one of these receivers in the first round or something and you're really like a wide receiver needy team, you're going to have to throw the bag at it. And if you throw the bag at a player, you're kind of obligated to see what ends up happening. So like my biggest take really is just like Jacoby Myers, non-zero chance he is 2023's Christian Kirk.
I can definitely see that. Crisco, do you agree with frankly either take that he is the Christian Kirk for next year or that he's staying in New England?
Well, I forget who mentioned earlier, getting a young guy a stud. And while Jacoby Myers isn't quite a stud, I think that he is a very good slot receiver, an incredible NFL running back. Wide receiver. Got there on the third try.
There we go.
Not a tight end. That's all we know. And this team traded a second round pick for a wide receiver this year. Completely whiffed. Darnell Mooney's a deep threat.
Yes.
Give Justin Fields, Jacoby Myers, and
Yes,
you will have a
yes,
top
yes.
3 quarterback in fantasy next year.
I suggested this in a group chat like 2 days ago or something.
Yeah.
Not a lot of
Oh.
fanfare, but like I love this.
Dude, my notes are literally Jacoby Myers, Chicago Bears.
Let's
Fields
go.
still needs weapons, and aggressively going for Claypool indicates Chicago wants to give him some. Myers, Mooney, Claypool, Herbert, Fields, and Kmet is actually a pretty good and relatively young offense, and they have plenty of cap space. Crisco, I love it. Bring up the Jeff Great call, Crisco. again,
There it
because
is.
It is
Ladies and
absolutely
gentlemen.
true
Let's
here.
go.
I don't mean to shit on any of your other takes, but that was just, I was waiting for that. And as soon as he said like giving someone young a piece, I'm just like, it's happening.
Yes.
Nate, we'll go to you. See if you can redeem yourself on this one. Alan Lazard, where do you think he ends up?
Real quick, I think Nate's on mute.
No, I think
No, because he was talking before and no sound came out, so I just wanted to let him
So
he's on mute on his mic, but not on the like.
I'm
stereo.
new to the whole like having a fancy mic, like a professional mic, because now I'm a professional.
La-di-da.
La-di-da.
With where the market is, I think they could probably get him for. So the question, like 6.5 AAV. I mean,
Sure.
With
I mean,
the-
they have tons of cap space. They can
But-
afford that.
but with the way that the receiver market has changed, I feel like it'll probably be higher than that. But at the same
Yeah.
time, I like where your head's at. So just wanted to honor the comment section once again on this.
Honestly,
program.
it could
But,
be
like
up, it could be up to 10 and they could still afford it.
yeah, it's fair to float that out. I'm glad that you asked. Anyway, moving on to the thing you were going to do.
Nate, Alan Lazard.
Man, okay, so this depends. Does Aaron Rodgers stay in Green Bay?
That is for
That's
you
the
to
question.
decide in your mind.
So if Aaron Rodgers stays in Green Bay, Lazard stays.
I agree.
If Aaron Rodgers leaves, which I kind of find to be more unlikely than a lot of people think it is, Green Bay.
You still think it's Green Bay no matter what? I like it.
I
like
think
it.
you give, because if Rodgers leaves, you want to give you want to give Jordan Love some familiarity. Lazard's a veteran, familiar face that's relatively inexpensive. Like, he's not going to break the bank in a contract. You can afford him. Love knows him. Aaron Rodgers knows him.
Well, they are a team notoriously known for paying their wide receivers, but I do like the take. I genuinely do. Herms, let's go to you. Where do you think Lazard ends up? Because I agree with Nate. I think Green Bay is the front runner, even though they aren't my pick.
I mean, I'm mostly the Packers probably, but if I'm going to put him somewhere else, I'm saying this mostly because I want to prime people for the thought process that this team will look to add a field stretching type option, even if it's not Lazard specifically. I think about what the Chargers could really use and the thing that can really take the cap off of the offense, because like it's really great what Keenan Allen contributes. It's really great what Mike Williams does exclusively just as a traditional X piece. And like the people they've had cycle in and out at tight end have been pretty serviceable. They've done a really good job with that. But the thing that they don't have is that like electric spark to like really stretch the field beyond just what a traditional X receiver traditionally does for the purpose of stretching the field in that capacity. So like something kind of has to give there. And Lazard is an imperfect answer to this question. It's probably not the best solution, but like he's fast enough to the point where I feel like he could do it. I mean, Marquez Valdez-Scantling would have been an interesting under the radar candidate for this at this point last year. So, like maybe if they don't end up, investing in somebody throughout the draft, like I floated out the idea really, really early that Jalen Hyatt from Tennessee would be somebody that like maybe doesn't command first round capital, but if the Chargers really want to go with that, that's probably my perfect answer for how they solve this problem. But
I
like,
would agree with that.
yeah, but if they want to go the veteran route, of the available free agents that can kind of do that, like Lazard's huge, but he's also like deceptively fast for being how huge he is. I think that would be an interesting lower cost option for them. So it's not the best answer in the world, but I think it does solve a real life need. So there
I
you
like
go.
it. Crisco, your thoughts? Is he coming to terrorize us in the NFC West, or is he staying put in Green Bay? Or
Third
is it
option.
something else? Third option.
Third option.
Ooh.
There is a team that is trying to get their young star quarterback to stay with them with a wide receiver core that has Sammy Watkins, Demarcus Robinson, Deshaun Jackson, and James Prochet.
Ooh.
I don't hate it. And it was someone I thought about. It
Yeah,
really
so-
is.
Of course, that's Baltimore or let me hold on. Baltimore. There we go.
You
Got
actually
there.
both are acceptable, and you nailed them both. I love to see it.
Yeah. There we go. So of course they have Rashad Bateman there, but he's on IR right now. But if you're Lamar Jackson, you're like, what are you guys giving me in terms of weapons? Like Mark Andrews, one of the best tight ends in the NFL. Rashad Bateman has flashed, hasn't been there yet. We don't know what he can be. Alan Lazard, I consider to be one of the best 50-50 ball receivers in the NFL. Say, hey, Lamar, we got you. We're going to get you Alan Lazard. Let's go. All right, fine.
The comment section disagrees.
Full Tilt Dynasty just keeps disagreeing with all my stuff.
I have to say, I like the call. I think someone else is going to end up going there, which we will discuss shortly. I think he's going to go to Seattle. I think he's going to go to the Seattle Seahawks. I think they need a third receiver. He makes a lot of sense. I think he can be used relatively versatilely in that offense. He would fit the locker room chemistry a lot. I think he's a very much team first guy. Won't make a ton of waves or anything like that. And they've got plenty. He's not that expensive. They got enough cap space, I think, to get it done. But I think Juju Smith-Schuster is going to be the one going to the Baltimore Ravens. So we'll just get right into that. Myers would work there too. Honestly, so would Lazard. But I think with Bateman on the roster, they're not going to go for the top guy. I think they're going to go just below. He's been linked to them before. He would fit the team. I do think Juju Smith-Schuster ends up being a Baltimore Raven.
So here's the thing. I think that if they do get Juju, they are getting the top option here.
Ooh.
Thank you.
Let's get spicy.
Ooh, no, I think Juju's a fantastic. I thought about Juju to Baltimore, and I'm just hijacking this. I thought about Juju. I thought about Juju to Baltimore, and then I thought, what team just loves to collect names? Let's go get all the biggest names we can get. We got Matthew Stafford in free agency. We traded for Jalen Ramsey. We've got Cooper Kupp. He needs a running mate. We can invent cap space out of nowhere. Juju to the Rams. He and Kupp can both play the slot and outside. A lot of interchangeable stuff there. And that's their vibe. They love to just chase names. Their roster is all names. It's studs and duds is basically what it is. And Cam Akers is both. So that was a joke. Thank you all for laughing. I appreciate that.
Please clap.
Please clap. But no, I think the Rams, their offense shit the bed this year. Just dreadful top to bottom. And they love to run up their bill. So they'll run up the bill with Juju this year and run it back with Matthew Stafford for 1, maybe 2 more years, and then blow it all up and start over.
Okay, we got 1 vote for the Ravens, 1 vote for Los Angeles. Nate, we're going to go to you because Herms has just got a take boiling, and I want to save it for last.
Ah, fuck.
Nate, you're on mute.
Still am.
God damn the new.
Wait, quick. Who am I? I'm a professional. I have a professional mic. Let me forget to turn it on all the time.
Dude, I'm not used to the. I'm used to the $30
for the
microphone.
Fantasy Pros.
Oh my god.
That's not that exclusive, just to be clear.
I'm sure they'll love you saying that.
Anyway,
the thing,
it is
the
fairly.
thing, it's just the Full Tilt podcast.
to be
and,
clear,
Dave that watch this.
I am very proud
love
that I
very
write
much.
for Fantasy Pros. I love Dave. Hugging Dave at this expo was like, oh, it was
Anyway.
amazing.
It's like hugging sunshine.
It was like hugging sunshine.
I
Where
think
were we
broke
again?
Nate.
You broke me.
All right, Herms, to you. We'll come back to Nate.
Somebody reboot Nate.
okay, all right. So we'll get the lateral butt on the men to help
Yeah.
out Nate for a little bit. But the reason I gave the Manning double bird earlier is because I cannot tolerate the thought of Juju Smith-Schuster betraying his Pittsburgh Steelers roots and going to the Ravens. It would make me so sad. But it's worth pointing out in the initial run of teams that made him offers this past offseason before he signed with the Chiefs, Ravens were one of the finalists. It would be a logical fit for him to, there's already mutual interest that exists. Okay. So, but, I love him so much and I want him to come home. I wanted him to stay the whole time anyway. Just come back to Pittsburgh, Juju, please. I love you. I miss your dog. It's just, oh my God. Like, he's so cool. He was one of my favorites. Like, look, this doesn't even remotely make sense. Not at all. It doesn't make any sense in the world, but I just love Juju Smith-Schuster, so please come back to Pittsburgh. I love you. Bye.
I feel like this is the least unanimity.
Words are hard.
Unanimousness.
Thank you. That we've had on a player. So Nate, are you going to make it like just 4 opposing directions? You picking one that we've got? Is he staying in Kansas City?
I don't think he stays in Kansas City. Baltimore makes a lot of sense. He's that type of player where they really only want one real high-level receiver. Rashad Bateman keeps getting hurt. He's been unreliable. You get Juju in there. He's that one guy for Lamar. Should they keep Lamar, which they will keep Lamar. He's that one guy. He can be that one guy. He's shown in Kansas City how talented he is. I think Baltimore makes a lot of sense, and they can pay him.
All right. Well, easy enough. Let's move on to tight ends. Nate, we'll just go right back to you. Dalton Schultz, to me, feels like the clear top target in this year's free agent tight end market. Where do you see him going?
That's gross. And I think he stays in Dallas.
Interesting.
I don't think he leaves. This isn't a team that's looking for an alpha tight end, but they're willing to pay Schultz to be a shadow of an alpha tight end. Jerry Jones is an idiot, and he's going to pay Dalton Schultz because he likes Dalton Schultz because he feels like a Texas guy. He feels like a Cowboy. And I just can't see – I don't really see another team that has a need for a guy like Schultz.
And they gave Jarwin all that money before his injury just prevented him from being able to suit up. So it's clear that they were looking to invest in that anyway. So the remaining healthy option of the two ended up being Schultz. So,
right.
I think my only thought is, if they wanted to invest in Schultz, why wouldn't they have already invested in Schultz?
They were – also, I'm using this hijack opportunity to say that my answer is also staying in Dallas with the Cowboys. But the reason they had to trade Amari Cooper for as little as they did and ultimately cut Blake Jarwin and do all that shit is because they were so close up against the wall with the cap situation that they just had to shimmy out as best as they possibly could.
So you think it opens up enough next year that they'll be okay?
Absolutely. The reason they didn't invest in Schultz sooner is really nothing to do with him specifically. It's just it kind of ties back to the thing I said about Zeke earlier. I think Jerry Jones is going to have to talk to Zeke and say hey, let's exercise this option. You'll come back, you'll be here, but for the better of the team, could you please help us, so that way, have him take a little bit less money, do whatever. All of it kind of makes sense. And they did similar things this past off season to keep the band together, quote unquote. So,
Crisco, you making it 3 for 3?
No.
Oh shit!
I keep trying to go spicy. My heart says he stays in Dallas, but what would be far more fun is the Jacksonville Jaguars say, Evan Ingram, thank you, but we will be moving on. They gave Evan Ingram, who finally played well, 94 targets this year. Imagine that was going to Dalton Schultz instead.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think he's going to the Cincinnati Bengals.
That was my second option.
Like having a good receiving tight end. He would be able to be a major asset that won't cripple the team down the road if he signs a 4-year contract. And the core of the team is still relatively young, and he's relatively young in the grand scheme of things. Hurst is a free agent. The only knock on this is they haven't loved paying tight ends a ton of money, but Schultz is definitely better than Uzoma, Sample, or Hurst. So I could see them doing it. Mike Gesicki. Crisco, we'll go to you. Where do you think he ends up? Because he's the number 2 on this list. It's not a pretty list.
The CFL, Bob? No.
See, this time it feels less insulting.
Mike Gesicki was my boy. No, and he is no longer. I'm not sure where he goes that makes a whole lot of sense. I was looking up and down this list for a Mike Gesicki destination. The closest thing that I could come to is Washington.
Ooh, I thought about that.
Logan
Honestly.
Thomas over the hill, unreliable. They do like to throw to tight ends. They do have this kind of like, we're just going to shotgun 6 targets to everybody sort of mentality. Gesicki woefully misused by Mike McDaniel. I didn't think it made any sense to tag him with Mike McDaniel there, because that system asks their tight ends to block, and Gesicki is like the worst blocker in the NFL. And with the Commanders, they'll have him running routes. He will replace an aged Logan Thomas. It gives them a receiving core of Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, and Mike Gesicki to go with, unfortunately, Brian Robinson out of the backfield. And I think that that's a nice core of weapons to have, not even counting like De'Ami Brown for like 4 targets a year. So Mike Gesicki, I think Mike Gesicki to Washington makes 4 to 6. I think Mike Gesicki to Washington makes a good amount of sense, because they use the tight end. They just have not had a reliable one for a year and a half now or so.
Yeah, they were my number 2 choice, and I just felt like, you know what? They're just going to stick with Logan Thomas. Don't know why. They're just going to do it. Herms, let's go with you. Where do you think Gesicki ends up?
I feel very similarly to our pal Jeff Crisco here, and I do want to point out that, like, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but I do have the exact numbers in the free agency preview on DraftSharks.com. Just going to plug that one more time. But like, the biggest thing about, you know, Gesicki's lack of success with the Dolphins this year is that the offensive system that McDaniel brought over from San Francisco features a tight end that runs their routes in line. And some of the research that I did around it, like, George Kittle never ran more than like barely over 30% of his, routes from the slot. Like, he was very much a traditional tight end. Whereas Mike Gesicki, from his second year on, from like 2019 to 2021, when he was doing his, hey, look, everybody, I'm a big slot receiver thing, he was running so much as he's basically just a slot receiver. So he has to go to a team that is willing to accept, hey, you're not a tight end. And, whatever team is willing to do that, like, we simply don't know, because it's such a non-traditional way of playing the position. So I don't really have a great answer, but I will say that, like, the Washington of it all does kind of make sense, because, like Malcolm, you remember Chris Cooley, man?
Oh, yeah.
Look, he wasn't a traditional tight end,
I think at times he was technically a halfback.
Exactly. So it's like, crazy lame thing to just toss out there as a reason why, but at the same time, it just feels right.
No, I get that.
So, like, I'm here for it. I think it would be a lot of fun.
What are you feeling for Gesicki?
I'm going to get weird.
Let's go.
I think he goes to the Rams.
Ooh, I like it. Didn't
go
even
with
think of
Hate
that
Crime
one.
Higbee, huh?
Gesicki is more talented than Tyler Higbee.
Yes.
Just be clear. And I think he adds a dynamic to that offense from Matthew Stafford that they haven't really had. And they won a Super Bowl, but then they also had this season where they were putrid. I don't know. It's like a gut feeling. I feel like he looks like a Los Angeles Ram. Picturing him in that uniform, I
have a gut feeling as well. And my
Toronto
gut
David
feeling
Graves.
is it feels like a Belichick move.
Ooh,
It just does.
More
I
tight
think
ends.
I think he's going to New England, because why have Hunter Henry when you can have slightly younger Hunter Henry? They have like an easy out. It's like $5 million dead cap. They can just get rid of Hunter Henry. It's like, why not? Like, bring in a slightly younger guy who's a better receiver, especially if you're losing Jacoby Myers, you're losing your slot guy anyway. Brady, probably likes him well enough because he was ready to go to Miami and play with him anyway. Like, there are some reasons that Mike Gesicki would. It just feels right.
Jonnu
I can
Smith
see the
still
back of the
exists.
jersey now.
And
Johnny
he
has
has
20
paid a
million
lot of money.
20 million dead cap next
Well,
season.
so that's why
Only four.
I said they have to get rid of Hunter Henry, because I looked at them getting rid of Jonnu Smith, and it is not possible.
No.
If they go get 3 top of market tight ends in 3 years, as well as using 2 third-round picks on tight ends,
It just feels like a Belichick move. This is what I'm saying.
just take the team away from Bill Belichick. Sorry. Also, I would like to support me and Herms' point real quick. Logan Thomas in 13 games ran the 5th most slot snaps of all tight ends.
No, it actually, you guys brought a great pick. I love you going with it, especially because, like, it had sort of felt right. But I just felt like they were going to stick with Logan Thomas for some reason. But glad you guys stuck to your guns there. Herms, speaking of sticking to your guns, do you think that Doug Peterson sticks to his guns and keeps Evan Ingram around in Jacksonville, or is he gone?
It's possible, but at the same time, I look at where they could possibly be picking from in the draft this year, and Michael Mayer from Notre Dame just like feels like a really fun option for them. Like, because for as much as we talk, like I talked a lot about Christian Kirk earlier, so I don't have to bring him up again. So he's there. Calvin Ridley, we'll see what he ends up being after nearly 2 years away from the game. That's going to be a lot of fun too. But still being able to have that type of, as many safety blankets as you can have. And I don't even mention this just because Trevor Lawrence is young, but like for any quarterback, it's important to have those short area safety blankets. Like Michael Mayer really looks like somebody that could be, really talented and also serve multiple purposes because he's a much better blocker than Evan Ingram is. Ingram fits more into that archetype of tight end who's basically a wide receiver. Ingram is one of those dudes that like I don't have like a particularly like good feeling about this, but I'm gonna nominate another guy going to the Chargers because I just want them to do something thrilling.
How dare you do that to Gerald Everett?
Look, and
pretty good too.
I know.
This is ridiculous, Herb. I'm leaving the podcast. This is ridiculous.
I'm so sorry, but they did a little bit with Jared Cook on a short-term deal. Everett was only there on a 1-year deal anyway. Like, if they continued to re-roll with this, like, it wouldn't shock me. Mostly because I'm not sure if this 1-year prove-it deal necessarily proved to the rest of the NFL this guy fixed his drops problem. So I pointed it out in the column that I wrote. Like, his catch percentage is the highest it's ever been in his career this year, nearly like 75%. And that stretch between his rookie year and this year, he was hovering so low in that category, ranking really low. Like the only people with a lower catch percentage from 2018 through this past season, like lower than Ingram, because there are people lower than him on that.
Marcus Valdez-Scantling?
Well, just among just among tight ends, But among tight ends, it was Eric Ebron, Buccaneers Gronk. So it's not like an insult or anything. And then like Mike Gesicki and shit. So it's like I can't. Like, there's a possibility that a contending team says, "Fuck it, let's go with this guy, first round talent." Back in the day, he fixed his drop problem, but I think there's a realistic chance he may have to sign another 1 year, and the Chargers could be a lot of fun.
Okay, Crisco, you seem offended by that. So where do you have him going?
There is a team that has been trying to get a pass catching tight end for years. They've spent 2 top 10 picks on a pass catching tight end. They traded one of them this year. They have a young core of weapons with DeAndre Swift, Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jared Goff can and will throw to tight ends if he's still there. Detroit Lions legend Evan Ingram.
I love this.
I'm sorry, did you say Eric Ebron?
Exactly.
I mean, look,
he's the same player. The same player.
The precedent exists.
For what it's worth, I think he stays in Jacksonville. My take is basically he's been good enough, young enough, and cheap enough. That's not really going to change next year. Knows the system fits seem to be fine. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I'm sure a more inspiring take will come from our guest, Nate Polvote, who unfortunately has to leave the show because he's a whiny little bitch.
I'm a whiny little bitch because I haven't had dinner, Malcolm.
Oh, sorry, I need food. Come on, nerd.
Some of us scheduled our entire evenings around this.
Yeah, but those people don't have a kid and a wife. A wife who is very understanding of the fact that I do this because she also does this. So that's not the problem.
Yeah, why do you think my career's ending? No, I kid. My wife's been incredibly supportive of this. Some would argue too supportive.
So unfortunately, Malcolm, my friend, Jeff, Herms.
See, I'm the only one that's his friend. So kind.
Well, I'm saying you're all friends.
No. It went Malcolm, my friend, Jeff, and Herms.
No,
I write for a living. I know how
on.
English works.
It went Malcolm, my friend Jeff, Herms.
So look, you can't argue with it.
We will roll back the tape later. Evan Ingram isn't going
No, we
anywhere.
won't. This is it. This is the last show.
That's true. That's true. There's
That is
no
a fair
redos.
point. Look, he's not going anywhere, guys. He's just not. Trevor Lawrence likes him. He was a big part of Trevor Lawrence's development this season, especially in the second half. Doug Peterson is a smart coach, and he is not going to let that team let go of Evan Ingram because he was a huge part of Trevor Lawrence's growth. This team is going somewhere in Jacksonville, and Evan Ingram is a part of it. They recognize that. They might try and move Christian Kirk, but probably not. They're not going to try and move. This team is set up to win. They're very good. They're not going to let Evan Ingram go because he's an integral part of it. This isn't like, why can't I think of the dude's name? Herms. The Blake Bortles. We're going back here. We're going back here. This is like Gary Barnage days.
Who the fuck?
Tyler Eifert.
Yes,
Eifert.
there we go.
Eifert.
Okay. Oh man.
This isn't Tyler Eifert. This is Evan Ingram, who we knew had this. He was capable of this. When he was in New York, you eliminate the drops, Malcolm, like you talked about that catch percentage. Ooh, Mercedes Lewis. I love that one.
So close.
But I just don't think they let him go. I can't see a scenario in which Doug Peterson allows him to leave. They'll franchise tag him. They don't really have a lot of other players to franchise tag. Everyone else is pretty much locked up on either long-term or rookie contracts.
I don't even know that the market's going to be that steep that they need to tag them. I like the
They
thought
might not.
process. They just
might
might
not.
need to.
No, they might not.
Yeah. Well, I love being told that I'm right. So that's it. That's the show. But in all due seriousness, Nate, thank you so much for coming on. I'm going to switch my hosting duties over to Herms, who's on this side.
Yes.
And he's going to play you out.
Yes, and like I mentioned it as soon as you got dumped into the stream. Before you head out, like first really close friend that I made in the fantasy football community. That is you, Nate. And without you and your support and my your openness to receive my bitching about like I just want to grow. I just want to be able to have a bigger impact on the like you being a sounding board for me about that and so many other things has really helped in ways that I could never possibly describe. I love you to death. Where can people find you on the internet? Because I'm telling you, like if you loved the whole lateral thing or whatever, in a way, it's not possible without Nate Palva.
I did actually write for you guys for like 6 weeks before I got.
That is true.
It's true.
It's very true.
To support me.
In between media, baby.
We are working our butts off. We have a really big thing coming here in the next month to two. Herms, you know what I'm talking about, but I can't say anything, but it's pretty big. We're growing. We're writing. We're talking about having kids, being hungry for dinner, and how frustrating that can be. But we also drop some top-notch fantasy football advice, and we're wrapping that up this offseason. We're going to have more Dynasty content, more rookie content, like – we're going for it. And then check me out at Player Profiler and Sleeper on their YouTube channel just for fun. And Herms, you're the only person in this community who has ever been to my home.
So far.
But you, my friend, stayed here for a week. I love you. I am so proud of you and everything that you have done. It just makes my heart so happy to see you succeeding in this industry because you fucking deserve it, man. You're one of the best out there. And Malcolm, thanks for having me as part of this. I loved writing for you guys. I've loved being a part of the show. And Jeff, you're pretty cool too.
You're welcome.
I love you, Jeff. Great.
I'm just glad that someone enjoyed writing for us because that makes one of us. It was a slog.
I never saw a world in which I was going to be a writer. So the fact that anybody asked me to write, it's always cool. I just enjoy doing it. So thanks for having me, guys. This has been an honor and a privilege.
Hell yeah, dude. We will catch you on the flippity flop. Do I have to remove you Do I have to do the?
No, I can do that.
All right,
Get him out.
All right,
Say
so
goodbye, Nate.
we say
Say
goodbye. We yeets and goodbye to Nate Paul Votes, and we move on. Jesus. Okay. Whatever. I don't have to be good at this anymore. It's fine. We're gonna do the awards. Okay. All right. We're gonna do
He's
the
a
lateral.
pro, everybody.
Yeah. I do this full
No,
time.
Nate was the pro. He has left. We've moved on.
That is true. So we're gonna do the lateral awards. We've done this twice, and we're doing it for a third time. That's the intro. So we have a few categories that are, oh shit, I don't have them pulled up in front of me. God, dude,
If only someone had taken the time to create a show sheet, send it out to you via Google Docs,
that
and then create their own version of the show sheet so they would have separate notes, not to spoil anything.
If only.
Yeah,
If only.
So while I pull that up, I'm gonna go ahead and say, just to introduce this segment or whatever, we're not only going to do retrospective awards for the 2022 season, but there are a couple things, we're gonna name some early awards for next year, so that way we get a little bit of a 1 foot in the future, 1 foot in the past. So we start first. Geez, I'm burping too much. Okay, the best breakout award.
Come on, man.
For the player that broke out the best. Crisco would
You have such a way with words.
I'm so much better in writing than I am when I'm fucking talking. So, Crisco, who's the best breakout that broke out the best?
Maybe you shouldn't fucking talk at the same time.
The biggest.
I know. The series finale, folks. This is what you get.
We got
right.
canceled for a reason.
I'll steer the ship.
Okay.
I'll steer the ship.
Chris
All
goes
right.
the host for the last
I'm the
episode.
host.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Look at me. Chris goes the
I'm the
captain
captain
now.
All right. I am among friends. We are all acolytes of Ramondre Steven season.
Ooh, I love it.
RB 36 off the board. RB 10 on the season. RB 14 in points per game. Had the 7th most RB1 weeks with 6, which was tied with Tony Pollard, Nick Chubb, Dalvin Cook, and Aaron Jones. He had 11 RB1 or 2 weeks, which was more than Zeke, Joe Mixon, David Montgomery, Alvin Kamara, Kenneth Walker, or Jamal Williams. And it was a true breakout because he added an aspect to his game. Went from 1.5 targets per game to over 5 targets per game. Went from 1.1 catches to 4 catches. He added an aspect to his game, which led to his breakout. He had almost the same carries, almost the same yards per carry, but he became a pass catching back. And that is why he broke out. And that is why Damian Harris will not be a Patriot in 2023, because they've got Ramondre Steven season because he broke out. So I am among friends. I know I will get very little pushback because we're all Steven season acolytes.
No, I love it. I think the only thing from me is I already loved Ramondre Steven season. So much so that I actually may have coined the term Ramondre Steven season.
I do believe you did.
There's a real
I've
chance.
heard it. Yeah, I've heard it a lot of places, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure I know who started that.
But the lateral is all about a sideways look. It is all about talking about the people that nobody else is talking about. So to me, Ramondre Stevenson was too talked about, too good to win this award. But Rashid Shaheed, now that is a guy no one is talking about. And specifically from weeks 13 to 17.
Yeah.
In that period, he has led the New Orleans Saints in target share. He is fast as hell, and he was wide receiver 33 during that period of weeks 13 to 17, despite missing an entire week with a bye week. He had 13 points per game during that time. He was PPR wide receiver 36 in week 13, PPR wide receiver 15 in week 15, and PPR wide receiver 21 in week 17, despite having Andy Dalton at quarterback, despite having competition from Chris Olave, who is good enough to be getting rookie of the year buzz. He's been playing football basically since week 6. And since then, he's been the wide receiver 46. This guy was not playing week 1. And since then, he has been a wide receiver 4 in this league, literally undrafted in fantasy. It is tough to be more of a breakout from completely irrelevant to relevant as hell.
I love it. I got shit on for bringing up Rashid Shaheed on my podcast. So I'm a
Never
big
on the
fan.
Lateral Show.
Yeah.
Some of us have recently traded for Rashid Shaheed.
Let's go.
That is
But
true.
I also said, do I just fall in love with small, fast guys on the Saints? Because I also love Deontay Hardy.
No, I think
before.
that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But hey, no, I love it. I did not go deep enough.
Look, and honestly, like it's anybody who listened to the show throughout the run of the show remembers my Marquez Callaway days. You know, it's a
We're all
player
just
that-
looking for a Saints wide receiver.
We are.
Just give us one, please.
Yes, it's a type of player that we like here on the Lateral Show. But just real quickly, I'm going to throw in my best breakout because I love the Stevenson call, love the Shaheed call, but you know, the guy that really impressed me the most, especially considering where he was being drafted, Devontae Smith of the Philadelphia Eagles. Look, like this is a dude that got relentlessly shat on because it's like, oh, look at him, he's so small, he's a fucking toothpick, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
His BMI is too low, Herm.
Is
He's not good in the NFL.
Yeah, there's no possible way, but your joke's on you because he's a top 12 wide receiver this year. And like, yeah, part of that maybe had to do with the fact that, you know, like Dallas Goedert missing some time, but he was doing really, really well before that. There was a stretch of inconsistency for him, relatively speaking, but like over the last several weeks, dude. Okay, so I have it just pulled up right here from weeks 13 through 17. I'm not going to go super nerdy about it, but I'm just going to go real quick. Boom, boom, boom. These are the PPR points we're talking about, friendos. We are talking 21.2, 17.4, 17.6, 31.3, and 20.5. Motherfuckers. Like, look, all the concerns we had about Jalen Hurts, like, can he be a good quarterback? Fuck that shit. Clearly, he's really good. What about A.J. Brown coming to town? I was like, fuck that shit. They're both going to be wide receiver ones this year. Devontae Smith needs that respect, homie.
If only someone on this show had said the second that A.J. Brown was traded to the Philadelphia Eagles, don't be surprised if this is like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, but on the Eagles instead of the Bengals. If only someone had said that. And it was like on video because it was on a draft show.
If only such a show and analyst existed, you know, we would have been able to. Sucks, man, you know. Yeah. But hey,
and honestly, that's probably why I didn't go with Devonta Smith, because it was just like, yeah, of course he's going to do it. The guy's like a first-round pick, former Heisman winner. Jalen Hurts loves throwing to him. Like, A.J. Brown leaving is only going to help things, and it did. So I do love the pick. I think that's just why he slipped my mind again. Like with Ramondre Stevenson, it was just like, well, yeah, they're already good. They already broke out. But you guys, you definitely make excellent points. I can't disagree with them.
Yeah, bro. So we got a good list of nominees there. We're not going to vote on who's the final winner because everybody's a winner on this show. Those are your winners for best breakout.
In the comments, you can tell us who won, and that will be the official result.
That's true. He has to tell us who you think is the best breakout, who broke out the best, and then we're going to talk about for the next award. We're handing out a future award because the Lateral Awards aren't happening again at any point ever. So we're going to go ahead and assign the best 2023 breakout now. We're going to put those thinking caps on. And I don't want to start. Malcolm, why don't you go? Jesus Christ, I'm bad at this.
So the correct answer is, of course, Bijan Robinson, but it's too obvious. Yeah. Of course he'll break out his first year. So my pick is Drake London. Drake London had a PPR wide receiver 10 performance in week 2. So technically you could argue that was his breakout. However, I argue, given how bad he was the rest of the year, I think he's still eligible. For reference, from weeks 4 to 12, Drake London was the PPR wide receiver 61. So I think he successfully negated that wide receiver 10 performance in that time. Overall, London was a PPR wide receiver 38, outside the top 36 wide receivers, so not a wide receiver 3. And with a good quarterback, he could easily be a wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 candidate, like right on that cusp of top 12. He's been 7th in targets per game since week 13. The difference in like his current performance and his expected performance is significant. And that is why I'm giving him the nod for best expected 2023 breakout. We have seen what he can do. It's just a lack of touchdown equity. He is making the best of like the targets he's getting. They're just terrible targets because his quarterbacks are not good. Yeah. And I think if they get a real quarterback, even frankly, a Ryan Tannehill, like, yeah, he'll be a borderline top 12 guy.
I fuck with that hard. Drake London, definitely one of the best candidates for this. Absolutely. Like the talent's there. Mini baby Mike Evans we're looking at on our hands, possibly, folks. But before we move on to me giving my pick for future breakouts, good point. Brock Purdy breakout of the year. Look, Mr. Irrelevant to possible rookie of the year. Like, so fuck anything we said, because honestly, Brock Purdy does kind of deserve it.
Every
think-
game he's played in at Levi's, he has gotten chance.
I think
There's been Purdy.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair.
Yeah, so that's look, not gonna argue with that. Breakout of the year goes to Brock Purdy. I'm gonna quickly lay up mine real quick, just because I feel like it wouldn't be in true Lateral Show fashion if I didn't use some segments of this show to
Promote Jermichael Hasty. Is it going to be Jermichael Hasty?
No, but close.
It's Ronald Jones.
Technically, he already broke out.
Do not be smirched. No, but it would be out of character for me to not mention the best rookie quarterback that there actually is in the NFL right
Kenneth Pickett.
If we go ahead and just recognize the fact that Kenny Pickett is now looking like a goddamn superstar and future Hall of Famer,
let's tone
there's
that
a
down.
decent chance we're looking at somebody who could win at least 10 Super Bowls. So, no, but seriously,
I think decent is the only accurate word you've said so far.
no, but actually reeling it back into reality, I'm going to go a similar route that you did, Malcolm, and I'm going to nominate George Pickens, because I think we've seen flashes of him being super good, and I know that like a lot of dynasty sharps out there are really, and rightfully so, skeptical about whether he is as good as his dynasty value is currently. You know, like there is a little bit of a discrepancy. I think that's fair to point out, but it's easier to teach somebody to do the little things than it is to teach them to do the spectacular. You know what I mean? Like it's very, very difficult.
Not only that, but I think his breakout potential is tied into Kenny Pickett's performance, which I have to say, I was notoriously very out on Kenny Pickett. Like I did consider him for a split second when looking at this award. He has impressed me over the past couple of weeks. I think ultimately he's still a year or two away from being eligible for best expected breakout. And anything can happen in that time. But when watching him recently, like it was one play where he tripped.
Mhm.
Instead of throwing it away, he just turtled up. And the announcers were all like, "Oh man, you got to like get back up and do something." And I'm like, "No, actually you don't." Because he's been giving the ball away. And he is learning, and he is in fact playing it safe and giving his team another chance. And I, in that moment, was like, there's hope. I'm not like completely bought in, but I'm just like, okay, that's new. There's hope.
So I'm using this opportunity to A, feel vindicated, and B, just like, look, the Steelers offense is in good hands. George Pickens is the real answer, but Kenny Pickett is kind of the sleeper surprise answer. So that's what I'm going with. I'm just shamelessly plugging the Steelers on the show one more time because I can't fucking help it. That's my 2023 breakout answer. Dat boy Jeff Crisco, what about yourself?
All right. First of all, I wrote down 3 of them. One of them was Drake London. So I'm with
Victory.
you there, McLateral. I am going with the 2021 Mackey, or I guess 2021 Mackey Award winner, second round pick, Trey McBride. The Cardinals love to use the tight end. They gave Zach Ertz 7.5 targets per game. Zach Ertz took his knee and snapped it in half in late November, so he's probably not going to be back till full strength until. I mean, we saw what happened with J.K. Dobbins. I'm giving him a year because that he's a little bit older. In the last 4 weeks, Trey McBride averaged over 6 targets per game, over 4 catches, 44 yards. I don't know if everybody heard my dog behind me.
I did.
Yeah.
I was like,
okay. She is on the couch behind me doing her thing. That he punctuated the season with a big game, week 17 in the fantasy finals. But we look for on the Football Absurdity podcast 4 for 40 tight ends. That's what we say you want to look for, because that's a back end tight end one. And when they score a touchdown, that's a top 5 tight end. So I think that Trey McBride on a team that likes to throw to tight ends, talented tight end, should do great. And he is in that, like, you know, I comped him to like a Mark Andrews type in the NFL. So I think that he has all the talent in the world to pull it off.
I like it.
Also worth noting, just because I was, kind of combing through and, looking at certain things for that free agency preview that I had to do. Mark Andrews is another one of those tight ends that runs a lot of their shit out of the slot. McBride could be one of those people that could possibly do that type of thing, especially in that offense. So I definitely like where your head's at there. Then we just awkwardly move on because I don't know how to do transitions today. I just don't. So we're going to go the Best Sleeper Award. So the best sleeper from this past year. And I'm just going to go ahead and start myself because I have no shame. And I'm just going to say, even though like this was more or less just like a dynasty sleeper option, there were enough people kind of talking about the possibility like, hey, look, like I know there's probably not like a huge chance of this, but like the Chiefs brought back Jerick McKinnon and like sorry to disappoint you.
Close to being right.
Sorry to disappoint you, but there was a reason why, like it was interesting when they decided to keep him around, because it's like, but why? Okay, cool, Chiefs, cool, go for it. But it worked. And I got a victory lap on myself. When I wrote the waiver column at fantasy6pack.net this season, most of my columns included, whether it was on like the free portion or the paywall part that you had to, get behind, it was basically just like, please, dear God, just roster Jerick McKinnon. you don't have to start him necessarily, but please, dear God, just roster this guy because it's working. He's on the field a lot. He's doing it. So he kind of qualifies from the preseason sleeper, but then also like in a weird way, I think kind of qualifies as like a waiver wire sleeper because it was never somebody that like until really late in the process, people were saying was a priority ad. So I'm kind of bending the rules a little bit. But Jerick McKinnon deserves a lot of credit for what he was able to do out of that Chiefs backfield this year. Even with Clyde Edwards-Helaire kind of just disappearing and Isaiah Pacheco being the rookie, surprise-ish breakout that he was, McKinnon was the constant. And I think that deserves a lot of praise. So that's my guy. McLateral, you seem disappointed in my pick. So why don't you go ahead and correct my errors. Let the people know who the real best sleeper was. Oh, the mute. Oh, no.
McKinnon was my honorable mention. He was my runner-up.
There you go.
Because he was PPR RB64 in ADP and finished PPR RB20. It's really good.
Yeah.
But it's not as good as a guy I talked about in the 2022 Fantasy Football Week 4 Sleepers Heat Check. That's Zay Jones.
There you go.
He was drafted as PPR wide receiver 87 and finished PPR wide receiver 24. He was honestly in consideration for best breakout, but technically he broke out back in 2018 on the Bills in his second year when he had 56 receptions on 102 targets for 652 yards and 7 touchdowns. So I decided he was ineligible for that award, but I strongly considered him. He was great. He was everything you wanted, and you got a complete steal. So it's tough just on the numbers to find a better sleeper than that.
It's a name we both talked about, and shout out Zay Jones. Left for dead out there in the wilderness. Nobody cared, but look at him now, folks. Look at him now.
He showed some signs those last couple of weeks in Las Vegas.
He did.
Like, I was writing about him. I was writing about him for Pro Football Mania when I was doing my Rolling in the Deep, which was like deep dynasty stashes.
Mm-hmm.
Like they had to be available on Sleeper. And it was just like, look at what Zay Jones is doing.
Yeah, dude.
And then they gave him money. And it was like, look at what Zay Jones is doing. And then after 3 weeks, he was a top 36 wide receiver. And it's like, okay, look at what Zay Jones is doing. Like enough is enough. And he kept going. He didn't stop. And he finished as, again, a top 24 wide receiver in PPR leagues. It's tough to ask for more than that.
It really is. So we're going to ask Jeff Crisco to come up with something more than that because that's what the show is.
I think he came up with Zay Jones.
Yeah, I was gonna say, here's the problem.
There.
What if I told you there was a wide receiver drafted outside the top 300 who finished as wide receiver 24?
You'd love to see it.
I relentlessly bullied my co-host Walker Kelly about Zay Jones because I kept saying, "Oh, stop it! Zay Jones isn't going to keep this up. Oh, stop it! Zay Jones isn't going to keep this up." And every week, Walker would they would put Zay Jones in the top 36. Every week when we do our rankings episode of the podcast, stop it. Zay Jones doesn't belong this high. Guess what? Zay Jones belonged that high all year long. Zay Jones left for dead. Everybody laughed at the contract. Well, why are you paying Zay Jones that much? Because he's good at football. He works with Trevor Lawrence. He was top 24. He was productive. You could put him in your lineup every week. He was averaging 5.5 catches for 55 yards per game, give or take. Going outside the top 300. I got nothing to add. Zay Jones is the man.
I looked at that week 4 heat check, and immediately I think I had Matt Collins like slightly higher because of like where he was going to be in the depth chart due to injuries on the Raiders. And while that didn't quite pan out, admittedly, I did say to take him over Jahan Dotson, Isaiah McKenzie, and like Devin Duvernay in week 4.
There
And
you
I'm
go.
just like, okay, looking back at that, I feel pretty good. I was even underselling him. All right, let's go. Zay Jones, baby.
Yeah, Zay Jones.
Jerick McKinnon, a great pull. Herms was literally, I actually had him initially, and then I just looked at it more, and I'm just like, it's got to be Zay Jones.
It's got to be Zay Jones. And, like Walker, fantastic human being, but they were wrong. They were wrong. So, haha. Suck it, Walker.
No, Walker was
Walker
right.
was
I
right.
was wrong.
Jeff
I
was
was wrong.
My bad. Never
I
mind.
was wrong.
Suck it,
Suck
Jeff.
it, you.
Walker, yeah.
I was doing the cyberbullying.
There we
that
go.
was me.
They were correct, and you're the one that sucks. Okay,
That's
cool.
right.
All right. Either way, Zay Jones wins. So then we round it out with the Fantasy MVP, a notoriously difficult award to hand out because people have wildly different definitions of what the fuck this award actually means. But I'm once again just going to start because it's even shorter of an explanation than it was this time. It's something that we
hold on. Throw up that Toronto Dave quote.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go.
Suck it, Jeff. There it is. All right. Suck it. But I've heard it both ways. So the thing
that would be me and Herbs' fantasy football league mate, James Roday, saying that.
Shout out. Yes, 100%. I geeked so hard, dude. That was
I
so
know.
much. I was so bad in that eliminator. I did end up winning one of them though, so I feel pretty good about
There
that.
you go.
But anyway, as far as the fantasy MVP goes, I'm gonna just blow through mine quickly because we talked about it on the last episode with Pat Fitzmaurice, like with the whole like tight end landscape being as miserable as it is. Like Travis Kelce, just like sorry, like who the fuck finished anywhere near him in the tight ends? I rest my case.
Yeah, you talk about how hard this
Like-
award is to
Mhm.
award, and I think we're going to have a unanimous Travis Kelce here because it's Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce averaged 19.2 PPR points per game. The next closest was TJ Hawkinson at 13.3 points per game. Kelce was number 12 overall in PPR scoring. And because he had an ADP of 14 overall, according to Fantasy Pros, he is technically a value pick.
Mhm.
Just let that sink in. He's number 1 at his position. He was top 12 overall, and he is technically a value pick, despite requiring top 2 rounds draft capital in basically any league.
It's Travis Kelce.
Very
Yeah, it's
When
Travis
we
Kelce.
did did our award show yesterday, and last year we said Fantasy Rookie of the Year non-Jamar Chase edition. This year we had to say Fantasy MVP non-Travis Kelce edition. Tight end was the only position where between 1 and 2 it was more than a point per game difference. And you just said what it's like 4 or 5 points per game. I had 4.8, so I don't know where you got your numbers from. But yeah.
Fantasy Pros weeks 1 to 17 PPR. Travis Kelce 19.2, Hawkinson 13.3.
There you go. So it's a massive gulf between 1 and 2. And here's the thing: people were taking Mark Andrews over him.
Yeah.
He's the MVP. You spent a top pick on him, and he was the MVP.
By the way, the number 11 tight end was Cole Kmet with 8.2 points. Travis Kelce almost scored a Cole Kmet more than TJ Hawkinson.
Yes.
Almost. Like, that is wild. Now, granted, if you do points per game, Dallas Goedert and Gerald Everett were ahead of Cole Kmet. But I digress. Oddly enough, so was Zach Ertz, but he had injury issues. Okay, so I'm curious then. Who's everyone's pick if it's not Travis Kelce?
I mean, like, dude, probably Justin Fields, just because, like, I don't know, quarterback was messy. That's another thing we talked about a lot. where like unless you were, my age or younger, you probably sucked at quarterback in fantasy this year, and he was essentially free off of the waiver wire. Like that probably really helped. So like it's a lame answer, but it's a pretty good answer, and that's what I'm sticking with. What about Crisco though?
You had the right first name, wrong last name. It's the likely 101 next year, Justin Jefferson.
Yeah,
he goose egged you in the finals. He got grittied all over by Jair Alexander, but all year long, I mean, he was a beast. And our consensus number 2 was Austin Eckler, left for dead. Technically regressed in touchdowns, only 18 instead of 20. But yes, we had Justin Jefferson was our winner for the non-Travis Kelce award. Although it could have been Jalen Hurts too.
It could have been.
And for me, it's Jalen Hurts, I think.
Yeah.
Because he was a bit of a value compared to guys like Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, and even guys like Justin Jefferson, Austin Eckler. And you add to that the ability of, if you are someone that was into stacking, that does try and do that, doing an AJ Brown, Jalen Hurts, Devonta Smith stack, which was very feasible. You could frankly probably even have gotten Dallas Goedert in there. Like that probably won you a fair amount of games.
I'm a guy in my home league. Shout out Joburg. Traded me for AJ Brown to stack Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown and just buzzsawed through the regular season. Didn't go so well for him in the playoffs, but he buzzsawed through the regular season with that.
No, and I think that is the one knock against Jalen Hurts. It's like, if much like with Justin Jefferson, if you were counting on him for the playoffs, he did let you down. Now, it's tough to blame Hurts. It's certainly tougher than it is to blame Jefferson. Jefferson actually got shut down. Hurts got injured, but it's just so obviously Travis Kelce.
And the non-MVPs are all names that we just mentioned here, you know. So, like Hurts feels
a good one.
like, so we're all thinking along those same tracks here, like, yeah. I mean, like any way you could have gone with this for the non-Travis Kelce version of the award, like, yeah, all of those names definitely warranted consideration. And, like that's, it's interesting because, like, I got to say, just like before we even transition into just like ending the podcast officially, I will just say, just like, what a fucking weird year. Like, what a weird, crazy fantasy. Like, oh my God. Like, look, I gotta say, like, putting my own shit on Front Street. Like, this is by far the worst year I've ever had as a fantasy manager. I mean, like, the highest I finished in any league was like 4th. Like,
it wasn't like my best by any means, but I was okay.
There's a lot of men.
I made like crucial errors in every league. And in most of my leagues, I had a strong reliance on Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts. So I have a lot of, hey, let's ride this bad boy to 4th place. Let's go. Because we made the playoffs. It didn't get much further.
Because honestly, the other one for me is like, I had one league where I had Trey Lance and Breece Hall. And I still ended up finishing like 3rd in the regular season and just got a little unlucky in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And it's like, had Breece Hall stuck around, I'd have probably been fine.
Based on your roster build, you would have been fine.
Yeah.
I know what league you're talking about.
Yeah. Because that team was Austin Eckler, Breece Hall, Justin Jefferson, Chris Olave, and
you streamed Everett the whole year, which was solid.
Yeah.
And like
Hollywood Brown,
yeah,
Deontay Johnson, and Brandon Ayuk were all my flexes. Like it was solid.
Yeah. You had a good thing going. Yeah.
I would like to say that if somebody wants to come write for Football Absurdity so I can actually have competition in our Writers League, because I've won 3 out of the last 4 years, I would greatly appreciate that. Thank you. That is my shit talk.
There you go. If you're willing
in the finals with Kate Otten in my lineup. Let's fucking go.
If you're willing to accept alumni participants, I will gladly join the league. But as we bring our 2-hour series finale to
my wife keeps texting me, are we ever going to eat dinner?
Nope.
So, Jeff, we will shine the spotlight on you. Thank you for joining us as part of this unnecessarily long event. Where can people find you? Where can they follow you? What is it that you do? If for some reason they catch like the however many episodes that you were on and just didn't remember.
Well, you can catch me Monday through Friday at the Post Street location of Caliber Collision if you crash your car in the Sacramento area. No, you can find me on the internet at Jeff Crisco, Krisko. I tweet a lot less these days because it is more financially viable to do a job than to tweet Herrick Denry all the time. You can also find me at footballabsurdity.com, which I don't know if either of you know the James Cameron Aliens moment, where he wrote alien on the board and then he put an S and turned it into a $, and that's how he pitched Aliens. But we are turning into football/absurdity this offseason. So we're going to start to expand out into other weird stuff. We also are going to have XFL fantasy coverage, which good luck to me because I have no idea what I'm doing there, but we're going to do that as well.
Luckily, neither does the XFL.
Exactly. Nothing will be worse than the AAF fantasy league I played in that accidentally let you draft duplicates of players.
Oh my God.
Nothing will beat
amazing.
that. And then twitch.tv/football absurdity. We stream there somewhat irregularly in the off season, but we're going to be doing fantasy chat with Madden during the off season. So
There we go.
And you can find me hanging out with Toronto Dave in my heart.
There you go. As you can find all of us hanging out with Toronto Dave in our hearts. So we turn it over to you, Malcolm, for one more time. Is there anything that you would like to say to the world, the lateral heads that exist, about the things that you do, about this?
For one final time, it's your boy McLateral, aka McLateralFF. You can find me on Twitter at McLateralFF, but only for a short time, as I will be fully transitioning to at MacMcMillanATL, where you can find all my takes for the latest in tech, gaming, and entertainment. I write for Tom's Guide. I post regularly there. It's CES right now, big consumer electronics show. So I've been writing about stuff from there, like Razer came out with a handheld cloud gaming console. Lenovo came out with a modular laptop, and also it looks like Apple's going to be dropping some stuff in March. So that is where I'm shifting my focus, apparently, as the year plods along. It is bittersweet to be getting to this point. The final yeets and greets, the final season's yeetings, as I myself get yeeted from the fantasy football industry. It's been an incredible ride. I wouldn't trade it for the world. There's a lot of people who helped me get to where I am today, some of whom are on this very live stream, whether as listeners or as participants. And I just want to say to you all, thank you. And it's truly been a pleasure.
Can I give a modification?
Sure.
Instead of one final yeets and greets, it's yeets and retreats.
Ooh, okay. Okay. I was going to go with ungreets because it felt like laterally, but
we got a much love to Malcolm from Toronto Dave in the chat.
You. But seriously, if you do follow at McLateralFF, please go and follow at MacMcMillanATL, because I am genuinely going to delete that old Twitter account in the coming week. So you will need to go to the new one to interact with me. But I will interact with you about fantasy football. It's just going to be way less researched and accurate. It's going to be off the dome stuff. So do it at your own risk.
And if you want some takes that are going to be a lot more researched and less off the dome, but sometimes will be off the dome because I'm a passionate individual, you can follow me on Twitter at HermsNFL. That is my name that I have adopted for the purposes of all of this. It is something that I came up with the idea to do like however many years ago, and I was just like, it seems like a lot of hard work. Like, I wanted to write fantasy content, but then I was like, maybe not. But then the pandemic happened. I got a lot of free time, and I had a friend that was crazy enough to actually be willing to do this. And,
as I said on our first appearance anywhere, ever, I am here because no one will pay me to write about public policy. And until that changes, I will write about fantasy football. Well, they paid me to write about tech instead, though. Because of TikTok, I do get to write about public policy on occasion. But that's a separate thing. So unfortunately, it is my time because of that. But I was happy to help. I really was.
Yeah, dude, and like, bro, like we easily could have made this at like a much bigger thing. We could have, had like a slew of big name guests and put this at a more convenient
I
time.
thought you meant the lateral.
So
I didn't think you meant the live stream.
no, I meant this. I meant this finale specifically. We could have made
I thought you were talking about the whole thing.
No, not the whole thing. No, we could have made this finale a much bigger deal. We could have done, a lot more with it and not having it end at midnight on the East Coast or anything. But the reason that I felt like it was comfortable to do it this way is because this was for us. This is something that we wanted to do. And we're ending it in the same way that we started it, at an aggressively inconvenient time. And who knows how many people are watching us do it. But
Last Valley was it too.
Yeah, so like it's keeping in true fashion of what this was really all about. This was about us being able to spread our wings, not about this being the thing that enabled us to fly. So as difficult
Foo Fighters, really?
Like whatever, man. Okay, like I love Dave Grohl. So like for as difficult and as sad as it is to say goodbye to this, like this was, just like means to an end. And I'm really proud of the both of us for being able to achieve that. Because before I started doing this, I was just an asshole named Charlie working in his dad's warehouse that just really enjoyed fantasy football and didn't know what to do with that passion and knowledge. So I adopted a nickname. I asked one of my friends to help me do this, despite the fact that they had way more of a life than I did. And look at where we ended up, folks. So I don't know. I'm proud of the fact that we were able to do something so stupid, yet so meaningful and so rewarding. And with that, I don't know.
I think there's only one way to possibly end this.
I guess that's true. Because
Mouse sounds?
I had another idea, and it was the thing that you've always wanted to do.